Okay, what we're going to be doing today is a whole grain, whole wheat bread recipe that I've got from Mother Earth News. The article is actually homemade bread. You have to try this amazing recipe by Tabitha Alterman. And it's a real simple all grain recipe. The recipe in the magazine and the recipe you see here that I'm going to go ahead and post with this article and this video is for a single loaf, but I'm going to double it up because, well, when I make this, we go through it pretty quick. This is a 2-day recipe. You're going to need to do part of it the day before, let it sit overnight, and do the next half of it the next day. So what we're going to start out with, we got 2 bowls here. One's going to be for the sponge, and the other one's going to be for the soaker. For the sponge, we start out with the original recipe is 1 3/4, so we'll double that. That's what, 3.5 cups of whole flour, which, as the article states, the flour you use is extremely important. I'm using King Arthur flour. It's an unbleached bread flour. The idea is bleached flour or enriched bleached flour. The reason they enrich it is because during the bleaching and mass producing process, we get all the nutrients are taken out of it, so they add them back. This is a good milled whole wheat flour, and as you can tell, it's pretty much white. If you're worried about having a dark bread, what did I say, 1 3/4, so that's going to be 3.5. There's 3, and I got my little 1/4 cup here. That's 1/3. There's my 1/4 cup. 1 and 2. 3.5 cups flour. And I'm going to go ahead, since I've got the flour out, do the flour for my soaker, which calls for 1 cup, so I'm going to do 2. And 2. And we're going to set that on the side for now. We'll come back to that soaker later. Set my flour off to the side out of the way. Okay. Now, what we're going to work on, camera angle. Got the sponge going. 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. So again, and I'm just using Fleshman's dry active yeast. Gonna double that up. Calls for 1/4, so we'll do 1/2 of a teaspoon of yeast. Bag that up, put it away. Okay, and 3/4 cup cold water. So 1.5 cups for my double batch. And I'm using good filtered water. I don't want the chlorine flavors in there and any bad minerals from the taps or anything like that, so it's good filtered water. And plain and simple, mix it up until we get a nice dough ball. That also says you can use a mixer with a dough hook attachment or wet hands. So eventually I'm going to go to the wet hands method. Get this good and mixed up. Little pre-advice here. 1, have all your ingredients up, ready to go. Makes things easier. You're not hunting around digging through drawers with flour sticky hands while you're trying to do this. And 2, take any jewelry you might have off because you're going to get messy. My wife always asks me when I'm cooking, do you always have to make such a mess? Well, yeah, that's the only way to make it right. So we're going to form this ball. And it says knead it for about 2 minutes. Get all that good stuff from the sides, get it all worked together. We don't want to be cheating and taking any off with our fingers either. There we go. Start to get kind of uniform all the way through. What you want to watch, you don't want it like a little bit sticky and a little bit dry, and you want to try to get it as uniform as you can all the way through. Now what the directions say is to let it rest for about 10 minutes and then knead it again. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set that off to the side, rinse my hands off, and we're going to make the soaker while that's resting. Okay, so dough's rested, hands rinsed off, we got our flour that we just put in there for our soaker. Recipe calls for half a teaspoon of kosher salt, so we'll go for a whole teaspoon. It says kosher or C. For my breads I prefer kosher salt. The recipe says 1 1/2 to 2/3 cup buttermilk, so not 1 1/2, 1/2 to 2/3 cup. So we're looking at 1 to 1 1/3 cup. So we're going to go with a cup of buttermilk. And for a simple recipe, if you don't want to buy extra ingredients or just use what you got on hand, you can just substitute water for this. And then a little splash for the up to 2/3. And 2 tablespoons of orange juice, which again, you can just use water in place of this if you want to keep it simple. And I have done the simple version, and it turns out outstanding. So it says 2 tablespoons. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And mix ingredients together to form a loose, wet ball. And this one, what you're going to end up with, instead of like a dough ball, it should be kind of wet. Kind of sticky. Yeah, that's good and soft. No dry spots. Now, this one is going to be left at room temperature covered. Now, if you need to do it, if you can make it up to a couple days in advance, and in that case, you refrigerate it. But for me, I'll be making the bread tomorrow, and then we will use this. So I'm just going to cover it with a clean towel and set it on the counter beside me and leave it out overnight. Okay, now to finish up the day before preps for this recipe, our dough is set for about 10 minutes. I'm going to knead it again for about a minute. You know, this is something, I don't know, one of the staple foods of mankind. And like I said, for the simple version, all you need is flour, yeast, and water, and salt. That's it. 4 simple ingredients. And you've got a nice, healthy, filling, tasty bread. Alright, we've got that all mixed up. We're going to cover this and stick it in the refrigerator. We're going to come back tomorrow and we'll finish up the bread.